Coming to you from the big island of Hawaii, it's the Songs and Stories Podcast. And now, here's your host, Steve Roby.
Aloha and welcome to another Songs and Stories podcast. I'm your host, Steve Roby, and my guest today is author and entertainment journalist, Jon Woodhouse. Welcome, Jon.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be with you.
Good. Glad to have you on the show. You have a new book out called Music Legends of Maui, Conversations with Icons of Rock, Country, Jazz, Blues, Hawaii, and Reggae in Paradise. That's a long list. You got about everybody in the book, I think.
Yeah. It covers a lot of genres.
It does. And that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Well, let's start out with your music background, how you became a music fan at an early age, and how you ended up as a music journalist on the island of Maui.
Okay, so I grew up in England. I just was in love with music from a young age as a kid. Every time the Beatles would put out an album or a single, I would devour it. And I had the great fortune of going to college in London in 1967 when the whole countercultural music vortex was happening, and all these amazing musicians were coming out. And I should probably say before that, I had the experience of seeing David Bowie, before he was known as David Bowie, played my high school dance.
Wow.
And Paul Simon played my high school before he was well known. And Jimi Hendrix played locally just after he'd arrived in England, and no one knew who he was. I kind of, I had a kind of bridging into the world I got into. But yeah, so every weekend I would be seeing amazing musicians play. There was a place called the Roundhouse in London that had these all-night concerts, and Jimi Hendrix and the Who would be on one bill. It just went on and on and on. It was incredible. Tons of free concerts. I think the only great artist I didn't see was the Beatles, but I saw everyone else.
Well,
yeah,
you saw a lot of the greats, though.
oh my God, yeah. I saw Cream's debut at the Windsor Jazz Festival. I think I saw Fleetwood Mac's debut at the same place. It goes on and on and on.
So
the Rolling Stones
how did you
in
end
the
up
park.
on?
Oh, okay.
Stop it!
I know I have to stop. Sorry. Yeah.
How'd you end up on Maui and become a music journalist?
Okay, so I moved from London to California, to Southern California, and I lived in San Diego for a while, and then I decided to move to Maui. Came for a vacation, fell in love immediately, moved to Maui, and there was a free newspaper, like a little, what they call them, penny newspapers, things were ads and stuff. Right. And I heard they were looking for someone to sell ads, and I got the interview, and they said, well, we want to start a music column. And I went, oh, okay, I can do that. So I think I had the first weekly music column on Maui. Nice. That was in 1980.
Nice.
And then the Maui News was a 3 times a week newspaper. And then in 1983, they decided to expand their coverage and actually hire an entertainment writer. And I got hired. That was from 1983. So there we go.
41 years? Yeah. 42.
Well, I've been 42 years I've been writing about music.
Wow.
Because back with the Bulletin, I'd be interviewing the local guys like Peter Moon, etc. But then maybe also, I think Peter Tosh I interviewed back then, and Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys. So that was back in the early 80s. Yeah.
That's quite an accomplishment.
Yeah. I just, it's like I live on Maui and I write about music. It's like mind-blowing to me. I just feel so grateful.
I can say I know the feeling.
Right. Sheer joy.
Yeah, it is. It is. And definitely needed. So when did you decide to start writing this book? And who's the book for?
Go ahead. Oh, okay. So, I actually started a few years ago compiling the interviews and thinking, I should put a book together. And then when I actually kind of looked at what I had, I had about 150 musicians initially. And then I hired a production company, to put it together to make it look professional. And it came back to me over 700 pages. And I went, oops, okay, this is not going to sell. So I had to drastically edit it, cut it down to about around 400 pages now. Right? Yeah. And so, to me, it's like, anyone who loves music and loves Hawaii. That's really kind of the market, So it's kind of a niche market, a bit esoteric, but I think it gives you a lot of insights into many of the musicians I profiled, and hopefully it gives you new information that maybe you didn't know, because I discovered stuff as I was writing about these guys that I didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah, fascinating. So as a music journalist on Maui for over 40 years, is there one show or encounter with a musician that sticks out in your mind, the most memorable that you'd like to recall?
Prince.
Prince. Wow. Okay. Why?
I mean, the Prince live show, well, because I'm a massive Prince fan, number one. And the Prince live show was insanely great. I mean, it was like, if everyone gives usually 100%, he gave 150%. And it was, fortunately, I was in the front row too. And it was just an amazing, I mean, the band was amazing. He was amazing. At one point, he said, like a couple of women jumped on stage, and and he actually said, I don't think I have enough women up here. And literally, I mean, it could be 100 women suddenly jumped on stage.
Wow.
And they were all dancing around the musicians and dancing around him. He jumps up on a speaker and he's got his little whip and he's like acting like he's whipping them. It was insane. It blew my mind. It was so great. Wow. And then the Who too. I have to say, I love the Who. The Who's my favorite rock band. And I saw them many times in England, of course, when I lived there. But they came to Maui, and again, it was a phenomenal show. Just that. I mean,
incredible.
Yeah.
So you sent over a couple of audio clips of the interviews you did over the years.
Yeah.
The first one I want to play is with the great guitar god, Carlos Santana. Can you set that up?
Yes. Well, yeah. I mean, Carlos has played Maui a few times, and he's always a delight to talk to. And, he's very cosmic, and I love getting into that stuff with him. And he lived on Maui for a while, right? And so he fell in love with Maui. And this is Carlos talking about the first time he came to Hawaii, I believe. Yes.
Okay. Here's Carlos Santana.
For the first time, and we went to this house close to the crater, and they're playing that song, Bowl of Confusion,
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, man, what? Man, 1 minute you're in high school, now we're doing this. What happened, So every time I come to Hawaii and they're playing My Sweet Lord, George Harrison, and Edwin Hawkins, My Sweet Lord, and When Jesus Will Walk, So it was an incredible time to come to Hawaii, because even in the top 10, God was on the top 10 with George Harrison and the Temptations. And so it was an incredible time and every time I come to Hawaii, all those memories just flood my brain about the.
Yeah. Wow. How incredible is that?
Yeah, God was on the radio on the top 10.
Yeah. What a quote. Yeah.
I know. Yeah, he's just full of great quotes. I mean, I could go on forever. Like in the book, I open each profile with a quote from the interview to make it, to pull the reader in.
Nice. Well, up next is Mick Fleetwood from, obviously, Fleetwood Mac. Tell me about this one.
Well, Mick, I've interviewed Mick tons of times because he lives on Maui. And, we've become friends. He actually wrote a nice plug for my book, which I use on the back of my book. And so this is, Willie Kay. He had a band called the Island Rumors Band, and Willie Kay was in it. And Willie Kay would jam with Mick at Fleetwood's, his restaurant in Lahaina. And so they were very close. And Mick had huge admiration for Willie's talent, as we all did, of course. And so this is Mick talking about the first time he discovered Willie, I believe. Yes.
I the legend, and have you heard about this guy, this player, this singer, was fairly prevalent with people, players, off the island, in terms of it was like saying back in the day when you got to go and hear Jeff Beck.
Yeah, right.
In England or something. Yeah. It was fucking unbelievable. He was playing in a band called the Tridents in Ealing. it was like that sort of a vibe where you got to go seek him out, if you're going there.
Yeah.
So that was my reference before I came here, and of course I did just that, and I had been to Maui, and Willie would often say on stage, invariably, because every night was, we all consider as players, every night is really a new audience,
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, the strange tall guy came in and just walked up to me and introduced himself. And I was living here then. And he had a very good, I think I played with him that night, jammed with him, and that was the beginning of our relationship. Years later, of course, I moved here.
Yeah.
And we all came.
Wow, yeah. Where's that tape? Willie K and Mick Fleetwood. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
I want to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they played quite a few times. They played at Fleetwood's, and then of course there was a couple of shows at the Mac too. Yeah,
nice. Well, the last clip I've got is you interviewing Bonnie Raitt. What's that all about?
Okay, well, I love Bonnie. Just think she's absolutely fabulous. She's always, terrific in concert, and she has a deep love for the islands. She loves Maui, and so this was an interview around her last album, and she is really an amazing artist in the sense of her commitment to causes. I mean, from a young age, she was committed to social action, but she never hardly ever wrote a political song, and this was a political song that she wrote on her Dig in the Deep last album. Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Talking about it. Yeah.
Own songs. There's a pretty potent rocky and political song on there, where you're talking about politicians ranting and raving and ignoring facts and people being played. Obviously, you're speaking to these times.
Oh, yeah, and it's not just this election cycle. It's many, many years of money controlling too much of what goes on in Washington, and too many Congress people and legislations are bought, and whether it's big pharma or whether it's the environment or whether it's the political process or the press, it's all controlled by money, and that's what Occupy and Bernie Sanders, and in some process as well for the Trump followers. People are sick of business as usual, and I've made my feelings very well known about what side of the spectrum I'm on, but I wrote that song for everybody that's upset at how broken the system is by money controlling too much and too many lies and too much BS.
Very well said. I think we're all tired of it. There's sort of,
She speaks her mind.
Yeah. And again, this was a rarity because she doesn't usually address politics in her music.
Nice. Great quotes there. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Let's talk about the book's cover with the iconic concert, Jimi Hendrix playing a free show on Maui to about 300 or so people. And you've found the photographer, and and he's included in the book. I always wondered why there isn't a plaque at Seabury Hall, noting that I went up there one time, interviewed the school's director, and she gave me a tour and showed me all the places in the film Rainbow Bridge where things took place. But I was just shocked they didn't have a Jimi Hendrix book in the school library. And I talked to a couple of kids, and they were kind of like, Jimi Hendrix,
Yeah, who cares?
But you did a wonderful job covering Jimmy's time on Maui.
Yeah, I always see this as a historic moment in time. I mean, what is even more amazing to me, the fact that just a week or two earlier, he played at the Atlanta Festival to like 300,000 people. And then after he left Maui, he goes to England and he plays at the Isle of Wight, and that was like 500,000 people. And here he's on Maui playing to a few hundred folks, and it's completely wild, And I think it was really, I think it was very important to him because he even, as I said in the book, there's an interview with the artistic director of the film of Rainbow Bridge, and he told her that he wanted to move to Maui. I mean, and then he's dead 2 months later.
Yeah, sad.
Yeah.
Has anybody ever really determined on Maui what field where the concert took place?
Yes.
Everybody's got their own opinion.
No, I know where it happened. Yeah, it's on the back road behind Seabury Hall.
Okay.
When you're coming down, so I know
straight up the hill there. Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I thought. And there's inside the main building there at Seabury Hall. There's a painting, and it looks like it could be there, but so many people have gone by there trying to look at it. You think there would be just like a historic sign or something like that? Yeah.
This was pretty historic. And there's in the doc that came out 2019. Was it or 2020? They actually have someone pointing out where the concert took place.
Nice. Yeah. Good. Do you want to talk about some of the Hawaiian music legends in the book?
Oh, yeah, sure. Eddie Kamai. I mean, I always loved talking to Eddie Kamai. And he was so soulful. He was just so full of aloha. And he just devoted his life to the culture. And after the Sons of Hawaii, he went into making documentaries, and he was just an absolute delight. I always loved interviewing him. So that's Eddie.
Nice.
And then Henry Capono, love Henry. I mean, what a massive tragic trajectory his career has, right?
Really?
And so, and again, there's some of these musicians who just exude aloha, and that's Henry's another one. And I've always loved his music. I've always felt he was he went out of the box quite a lot and put out that Hawaiian language rock album. Has done some amazing things over the years, and he still creates great music.
Still going, yeah.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
And then of course the great Willie K. I mean,
yeah.
I remember the first time I think I encountered him. It must have probably been 1980, I guess. And I just thought Jimi Hendrix had reincarnated on Maui because I could not believe this. Who is this guy? He's playing it with his teeth. He's playing it behind his head, and he looks like he's 17. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
And it was always. And I always loved Willie because he would never hold back on his opinions on things. So and so that was great. And then having the benefit of being able to talk to Iz about 3 times, I think. I mean, what an icon in Hawaii, right?
Absolutely.
So there we go. I've just been able to interview some of these greats of Hawaiian music.
So you're still covering the music scene on Rai.
Yes.
What's that like?
What's the music scene? Well, it's really obviously because of the pandemic, everything's shut down.
Sure.
And we used to have a weekly entertainment tab called the Maui Scene that came with the Maui News because they had to shut that down. So now, and I had my own column, but now I write on, I'm writing about 4 times a month now, and it's coming back. Because for a while there was nothing to write about, but now there is, and not like huge acts coming back, but there's a lot of local music going on, and so it keeps me. I'm quite surprised. Keeps me busy.
We'll keep going.
Do my best, right? Yeah.
Right. So where can folks pick up a copy of your book? Where's it available?
It's available on Amazon. It's a hardcover paperback, and a Kindle. And there were a few typos in the original version, which I've since corrected online. So now you should be able to get a typo-free version. And it's also available on Maui at the store called Biasa Rose in Paia, and Upcountry in Kula at the Kula Market by the Kula Lodge, and also at Bounty Music in Kahului. And there will be more places as I get to promote it more. I mean, there's going to be an article coming out in the Honolulu Star.
Oh, nice. Sweet.
Advertiser, right? So that should help in your podcast. And
Sure, great. So John, anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I kind of, in a way, I would just like to say that I think I'm a bit biased, but I put a lot of research into this, and I think it's like a cultural and social history. It's kind of like a historical document. And there's lots of things I discovered I didn't know. Particularly, I looked at the racism, segregation that happened in music, and the country radio and how it discriminates against female musicians. And so there's a lot of things in there that, as I said, were discoveries for me, and I think I found from friends who've read my book going, I had no idea about that. I had no idea about that. So I think there's a lot in there that would intrigue people, and I think it's well written, I've been told. Mm-hmm. And, it's like looking at the world of music through the lens of Hawaii.
Yeah, and it's important to document these things too, I think, for future generations. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So this is a labor of love. I'm not going to get rich on this thing, but I think, as I said, anyone who loves music will really appreciate it.
All right. Well, Jon, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you, Steve.
Wish you much success with the book. Again, I'll put some links to where folks can pick up the book, and keep going, man. Keep going, brother.
Great. Thank you. I'm actually working on volume 2. I've already got about 120 musicians in volume 2, which I have to cut down.
All right. Next year?
Well, we'll see.
Okay. All right, Jon. Thanks again for your time.
All right, Steve. Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Thanks for listening to the Songs and Stories podcast. Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. We'll see you next week on Songs and Stories. Aloha.